Have you ever had a heated argument with someone, maybe a friend, a lover, or a family member? We all handle these situations differently. Some might throw a fit, others might choose silence to calm themselves down. But what happens when an argument leads to something far more serious? Today, we're diving into a case from Japan that shocked the nation, capturing widespread media attention and leaving many people baffled. Yet, outside of Japan, it remains relatively unknown. This is the case of Tomohiro Sato, a missing person whose story still lingers in the minds of many. It all started on January 15th, 2012, in Asahikawa City, Hokkaido. It was around 9 p.m., and while it was a cold, snowy night, the city was still alive with activity. Most people were likely at home, warming up with their families or tucked into cozy blankets. But things were far from peaceful in the Sato household. Neighbors reported hearing loud screams coming from the house that night, a boy and a woman shouting at each other. The argument escalated until there was a loud bang, followed by the sound of something breaking. The very next day, the local police received a report that 13-year-old Tomohiro Sato was missing. So who was Tomohiro Sato, and why did his disappearance capture the nation's attention? Tomohiro was a 13-year-old boy at the time, and though he didn't come from a famous family, he was well known in his community. His parents had divorced when he was just 2 years old, and he was raised by his mother, Mai, alongside his sister, Ayaka. Little is known about his father or the reasons behind his parents' separation. Tomohiro was described as a handsome and popular young boy. His friends admired him, often calling him a cool person, someone who would stand out even in a crowd. He was also an athletic kid, having won several competitions with his skills. Academically, he was gifted as well, often helping his friends with difficult homework. There's even an anecdote that he dreamed of becoming a doctor one day, hoping to help his mother so she could finally enjoy life. His academic achievements were impressive. He had passed the entrance exam for a junior high school associated with Hokkaido University of Education, one of the most challenging schools to get into, reflecting just how bright his future seemed. So what could have driven this bright young man to leave his home in the middle of a snowy Hokkaido night? The events leading to Tomohiro Sato's disappearance were triggered by a seemingly ordinary sibling argument. On January 14th, 2012, the day before he vanished, Tomohiro and his sister Ayaka had a heated argument while their mother Mai was out. The argument was over something as simple as what to watch on TV. Tomohiro wanted to watch Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, while Ayaka preferred a drama called Perfect Sun. The argument escalated quickly, with both of them screaming at each other. In a fit of rage and frustration, Tomohiro did something that was shocking to anyone who knew him. He threw his Nintendo DS against the wall, shattering it. This was a significant act, as Tomohiro had bought the DS with money he earned from helping his mother with household chores. For a young boy to destroy something he cherished so much, it was clear that his anger had been building up for some time. After breaking his DS, he punched the wall, leaving a visible hole, before storming off to cool down. The next day, Mai returned home to find the house in disarray and noticed the hole in the wall. She asked Tomohiro to clean up the mess and apologized to his sister. While he was cleaning, Mai noticed the broken Nintendo DS and asked him what had happened. Tomohiro, still furious, responded loudly, "I bought this with my own money. I can do whatever I want with it." Ignoring his mother's attempts to talk, he ran to his room and locked the door. Mai assumed this was just a phase, a moment of teenage rebellion, and didn't think much of it. She believed he just needed some time to cool off, so she left him alone and turned her attention to watching TV dramas. But around 9:15 p.m., she heard the front door slam loudly. She thought Tomohiro had gone out to clear his head and would return soon. However, as time passed and he didn't come back, she grew concerned. It was freezing outside, and she realized Tomohiro had left wearing only a simple t-shirt and thin pants. Mai searched the house, hoping Tomohiro had come back without her noticing, but he wasn't there. She did find that his jacket and wallet were missing, though the wallet contained only 1,000 yen, with a few bus tickets worth about 300 yen each. His phone was still in his room, leaving her with no way to contact him. Frantic, Mai rushed outside into the worsening snow, searching for her son in the bitter cold. That night, the temperature in Hokkaido dropped to -15 degrees Celsius, and she feared the worst as she searched for him in the snow-covered streets. Tomohiro's impulsive decision to leave the house that night, driven by anger and perhaps a sense of not being understood, led him into the freezing cold, unprepared for the harsh weather. His mother, who had dismissed the incident as a temporary mood swing, suddenly found herself in a desperate search for her son. The next day, Mai reported Tomohiro's disappearance to the police. The local police department quickly launched a large-scale search, believing it was unlikely that Tomohiro could have gone far in such cold weather, especially given how lightly he was dressed. They speculated that he might have taken a bus somewhere, but given the late hour and the heavy snowfall, most buses weren't running. Despite checking surveillance cameras and interviewing taxi drivers, they found no trace of Tomohiro. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. As the snow began to melt, the search efforts intensified. Helicopters were used to scan nearby rivers, and large areas were searched on foot. But still, there was no sign of Tomohiro. People began to fear that he might have died in the cold weather and was buried under the thick snow, but no evidence supported this theory. Flyers and posters with Tomohiro's description were distributed throughout the community and posted online, detailing what he was wearing and mentioning his distinctive birthmark, a bruise-like mark between his eyebrows. His mother and sister made several appearances on local and national TV, pleading for any information about his whereabouts. Ayaka even created a Twitter account to spread the word, though her last post was made on January 18, 2015. On one TV program, Ayaka expressed deep guilt, feeling responsible for her brother's disappearance because of the argument they had before he went missing. Tomohiro's mother, Mai, became the subject of gossip following her appearance on a TV program on October 29, 2019. The show, focused on the search for her missing son, should have been a sad and serious occasion. However, viewers couldn't help but notice her long and thick eyelash extensions, which many felt were out of place given the context. Some even speculated that her appearance suggested she wasn't truly invested in finding her son, or that she might be involved in the nightlife industry because of her makeup choices. Others, however, defended her, suggesting that her makeup might have been an attempt to conceal her pale and sickly appearance due to a heart condition. In the midst of this ongoing and fruitless search for their beloved son and brother, Mai received two cryptic messages, one on August 15, 2016, and another on August 14, 2019, both almost exactly 3 years apart. The messages were identical, each containing a simple but chilling phrase in katakana which said, "Help, Tomohiro." The messages were traced back to a payphone, making it difficult to determine whether they were genuine cries for help from Tomohiro or just cruel pranks by someone aware of the case. Despite reporting these messages to the police, no concrete leads emerged. In addition to these messages, the Sato family received several mysterious phone calls from unknown numbers and payphones. When they answered, the caller remained silent until the line eventually went dead. Despite the lack of progress in the investigation, there have been occasional reports of people who believe they have seen Tomohiro. One of the most notable sightings occurred in 2015 when someone claimed to have seen him in Shinjuku's Kabukicho district, a well-known area in Tokyo, famous for its host and hostess clubs. According to this report, the person believed to be Tomohiro was working as a host, a job where young men entertained female clients in nightclubs. This sighting was given some credibility because the individual had a scar-like birthmark between his eyebrows, just like Tomohiro, and he claimed to have run away from home in Asahikawa, Hokkaido, the very place Tomohiro had disappeared from. The report came from a regular visitor to the host club, who said they had nominated this host several times. The host reportedly mentioned that he had left his home at the age of 13, which aligns with Tomohiro's age when he disappeared. Given Tomohiro's handsome appearance, it's possible he might have turned to such work to survive, even though it would have been illegal for someone his age. However, the possibility remains that this host wasn't actually Tomohiro Sato. In the world of host clubs, it's not uncommon for hosts to invent tragic backstories to gain sympathy and money from their clients. While the similarities in appearance and story are striking, there's no definitive proof that this young man was the missing Tomohiro. There have been other reported sightings of Tomohiro Sato, adding to the mystery surrounding his disappearance. One notable sighting came from a district in Shinjuku known for its vibrant LGBT scene, with numerous gay bars and a community where many people gather. According to a post online, someone who looked like Tomohiro was allegedly working as a host who catered to male customers. The post described this person as having brown hair and appearing to be around 21 years old, often seen chatting with groups of people his age. Some commenters even speculated that he might be living in a dormitory near a male-targeted sex shop in the area. Another sighting reportedly took place in Ikebukuro, specifically in the restaurant area on the 8th floor of the Seibu department store. Ikebukuro is relatively close to Shinjuku, and it's not uncommon for hosts to hang out in both districts. With multiple sightings in these areas, the possibility that Tomohiro is alive and living in Tokyo seemed increasingly plausible to some. Desperate for answers, the Sato family even turned to spiritual help. On a TV program, they consulted a psychic named Kazunari Kiyomiya, who claimed to have insight into Tomohiro's whereabouts. Although there is no concrete evidence that psychics have successfully located missing persons, this psychic suggested that Tomohiro was in Kabukicho. Despite the family's efforts to search for him there, no clues were found, and many people began to question the psychic's credibility. Some suggested that the psychic might have simply repeated rumors that were already circulating on the internet about Tomohiro being in Kabukicho, rather than providing genuine insight. In the end, despite all the reported sightings and efforts, Tomohiro's whereabouts remain unconfirmed. Now, let's explore some of the theories surrounding Tomohiro Sato's disappearance. The first theory is that Tomohiro simply ran away from home. After his argument with his sister and locking himself in his room, he may have had enough time to plan his escape. Although his mother claimed he had only 1,000 yen and a few bus tickets, some people speculated that he might have hidden extra money in his jacket or pants pocket, a common tactic for teenagers who plan to run away. They also suggested that hitchhiking would be a more effective way to avoid being traced than using public transportation. The second theory is that Tomohiro might have gone to his father. Some found it strange that his father remained silent throughout the chaos of the search. However, this theory was largely dismissed, as the police would have likely investigated his father first, and any trace of Tomohiro at his father's place would have been found. Another prevalent theory is kidnapping. Given that Tomohiro was described as a well-dressed and handsome young man, some speculate that he might have been kidnapped, either for sexual exploitation or even organ trafficking. The lack of any sightings or records of him using public transportation has fueled this theory, as it's possible he was taken against his will without leaving any trace. There are also darker theories about what might have happened to Tomohiro Sato, including the possibility that he may have died soon after leaving his home. Some speculate that he could have died in the freezing temperatures amid the heavy snow, fallen into a river, and been swept away, or even taken his own life. The idea that he might have chosen to end himself is fueled by the fact that it seems out of character for a boy who cherished his hard-earned Nintendo DS to destroy it out of mere anger. This leads some to believe that Tomohiro had been hiding deep-seated stress, anger, and disappointment, which all came to the surface during the fight with his sister, pushing him to make a tragic decision. This theory was somewhat supported by a psychic named Yasuyama Higashino. He claimed that 2 days after Tomohiro's disappearance, he sensed that Tomohiro was no longer alive. Higashino also suggested that a man might have tried to help Tomohiro by letting him into his car, but something went wrong, making the situation difficult to resolve. However, like many psychic claims, there's no concrete evidence to back up this theory. Another theory, perhaps the wildest of all, is that Tomohiro's disappearance might be connected to his mother. There's an old saying, the culprit is always the closest one, and some people speculate that Mai might have been involved in her son's death, possibly hiding his body during the snowstorm so that evidence would be hard to find. There are also suspicions surrounding Mai's behavior during interviews, particularly how she kept glancing at Ayaka while Ayaka spoke about her brother. Some interpreted this as Mai trying to control the narrative, perhaps to keep Ayaka from revealing something. However, many others defended Mai, saying her restless and worried demeanor was simply that of a mother, desperate and exhausted after searching for a missing son. The Sato family was thoroughly investigated by the police, and if they had been involved in Tomohiro's disappearance, the authorities likely would have noticed something suspicious. Despite this, some people still question why the family didn't appear to follow up on numerous sightings reported in Kabukicho. Although it's known that the family went to Shinjuku to distribute posters and information, there's no record of them directly contacting people who claim to have seen Tomohiro or visiting the specific places where he was reportedly seen. This has led to speculation that Tomohiro might have felt a lack of genuine concern from his family, which could have contributed to his decision to cut ties with them. Despite all these theories and reported sightings, the mystery of Tomohiro Sato's disappearance still lingers. It's so strange, isn't it? Where could he be? No solid evidence has surfaced to prove that the host seen in Kabukicho is actually Tomohiro, and the real reason behind his disappearance remains a puzzle. People keep speculating, but at the end of the day, only Tomohiro himself could really answer all these questions. So what do you think? Out of all the theories, which one seems most believable to you? Or maybe you have your own ideas about what might have happened to Tomohiro Sato. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them in the comments below. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.